Welcome to Jewish Wisdom on JTV, the global Jewish channel. Well, the Jewish holiday Purim is just around the corner, so I wanted to share with you something that someone recently showed me, and it kind of blew my mind. So I'd be interested to show it to all of you, to see what you think. And if you're not familiar with the Purim story, let me give you a little bit of a background. It's basically about this Persian tyrant called Haman, who issued a decree to wipe out all the Jews. And through a series of seeming coincidences, Haman ends up being hung on the very gallows that he planned to put his arch nemesis on, a Jewish man called Mordecai. Now, there was a rule in place that if a law was decreed, it was impossible to change it. However, after Haman was killed, the king issued a new decree that if any Jew was attacked by a group of anti-Semites, it was within their rights to fight back. And not only was Haman hung on the gallows, but all of his 10 sons, who were co-conspirators in the plot to wipe out the Jews, were also hanged on the gallows. Now, at this point, I want to look at the character of Haman in a bit more detail. Who was he? Well, why did he want to wipe out the Jews in the first place? Haman was a member of a nation called Amalek. And the Torah is very clear that if you're from Amalek, then you ain't really a fan of the Jews. Amalek believes that blind chance governs the world. Amalek believes there's no such thing as right and wrong. And therefore, they are at war with Judaism and Jewish values. Now, the Torah is very clear that the cosmic battle between Amalek and Jewish values will be fought throughout history. And there have been some who have looked at another, more recent anti-Semitic tyrant and considered whether he too showed signs of adhering to the Amalek principles. I'm speaking, of course, of a man called Adolf Hitler. And what's so interesting about Adolf Hitler is that he didn't just want to wipe out the Jews. It's that this mattered to him more than anything else. He was even prepared to put the war effort at risk by diverting trains delivering troops to the Eastern Front and instead taking them to pick up more Jews in Hungary and send them to their deaths. In fact, in his very last radio address, he stated clearly, quote, "Our battle is between the Jews and the Jews alone." The Nazi ideology was rooted in a godless vision of the world, a vision where might is right, where the strong dominate the weak, where you have survival of the fittest, and the greatest threat to this vision was a vision of morality and conscience, where we should care for the weak and the vulnerable, a vision of ethical monotheism first articulated by the Jews. And this is what Hitler said. He said, "It is true, we are barbarians. It is an honorable title to us. I am freeing humanity from a false vision called conscience and morality. The Jews have inflicted 2 wounds on mankind, circumcision on its body and conscience on its soul. The war for world domination will be fought entirely between us, the Germans and the Jews. All else is facade." So we've got 2 crazy tyrannical leaders in history, Haman and Hitler, both with similar ideologies and with similar aims. Now, here's where it gets interesting. At the end of the Purim story, the book of Esther recalls how the Jews defended themselves against their attackers, and it notes how Haman's 10 sons were all hanged on the gallows. So it says, "And the Jews struck at all their enemies with the sword and with slaughter and destruction." They're fighting off these anti-Semites, "and did as they pleased to all those who hated them. And in Shushan, the capital, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, including," and then it lists the 10 sons of Haman. So now after Haman's 10 sons have all been hanged, the Jewish queen Esther has a conversation with the king, Ahasuerus, most likely Xerxes. It says, and I quote, "That same day, the number of those killed in Shushan, the capital, was reported to the king. The king said to the queen Esther, 'In Shushan, the capital, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men, including the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's providences? What is your request now? It shall be granted to you. What is your petition further? It shall be fulfilled.'" The king is saying to Esther, basically, listen, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. An iPad, a Ferrari, whatever it is, I'll make it happen. And what does Esther say in return? Have a look. It says, "Esther replied, 'If it pleases the king, allow the Jews of Shushan to do tomorrow as they have done today, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows.'" Esther's asking the king if Haman's 10 sons can be hanged on the gallows. Right. There's one problem with this, which is that we were just told a second ago that Haman's 10 sons were already hung. Why is Esther asking for this to happen again? What does she mean, allow the Jews to do tomorrow what they have done today? She seems to be asking for a repeat of history to take place. And if you want to get a little bit mystical, in Kabbalistic teachings, it is taught that whenever the book of Esther refers to the king, it is also a reference to God. God is never explicitly referred to in the book of Esther. So Esther is somehow, on a deeper level, asking God to repeat the hanging of Haman's 10 sons. What does all this mean? Well, maybe, just maybe, this could be an answer. Fast forward to October 16th, 1946, and check out this New York Times headline. Goering ends life by prison, 10 others hanged in Nuremberg, prison for Nazi war crimes. Doomed men on gallows pray for Germany. There were basically 10 Nazis who were hung at Nuremberg, and it was death by hanging, which, by the way, was a very uncommon form of capital punishment. Interesting. Do tomorrow as they have done today. But maybe this is just a coincidence. Now, it's interesting to note that there were actually 11 Nazis who were meant to be hanged, but one of them actually committed suicide, Hermann Goering, as it notes in the headline. And he committed suicide in his prison cell. And what's interesting is that Haman also had one more child, a daughter. And what happened to her? Well, she actually also committed suicide. Interesting. And by the way, Hermann Goering, the Nazi that committed suicide, was said to have actually worn women's clothing under his Nazi uniform.
Okay, so like it doesn't.
But maybe it's just a coincidence.
Doesn't mean that he thought he was a woman.
But it doesn't stop there. What's interesting about the Nuremberg trials is that they ended in June 1946, but the sentencing were repeatedly postponed due to appeals for amnesty for Nazis. Strange. Now, hold that thought for a second. It's bizarre that you're getting appeals for amnesty for senior-ranking Nazis, but that's what happened. Now, let's have a look at the date on which these 10 Nazis were hung. It was on October 16th, 1946, but the Hebrew year was 5707, or in Hebrew, it's Tuf Shin Zion. As you can see over here, this is the Hebrew year, Tuf Shin and Zion, 5707. That was the date in 1946, October. Now, let's take a look at the book of Esther, where it lists the 10 sons of Haman being hanged. Someone with an astute eye will notice something peculiar about the Hebrew wording. There are 3 letters which appear much smaller than all the others. The first is over here, it's a Tuf. The second is a Shin, and the third is a Zion. Tuf, Shin, Zion. 3 letters much smaller than all the others within the 10 sons of Haman, written in the book of Esther. Now, imagine Esther 2,000 years ago. She's dictating her book to the scribes, and she tells them, when they get to the Tuf, make that a little bit smaller. Same with the Shin, same with the Zion. Why? Why did Esther want to do this? And it's remarkable that Tuf Shin Zion is the year that these Nazis were hung at Nuremberg. Do tomorrow as they have done today. But what was Esther's reason? Why did she tell the scribes to make those 3 letters smaller? She probably just said, look, don't worry, 2,000 years from now, they'll do a show on JTV and they'll explain it all. That's probably what happened. But isn't that quite remarkable? But guess what? It doesn't stop there. For anyone familiar with the Jewish calendar, and who, if they understand how it works, they'll know that when we write the year in Hebrew, we don't actually include the millennium. We assume you know what millennium we're in. It would also be too difficult numerically to write which millennium we're in, as it would require so many letters in Hebrew, because the letters correspond to a certain number. And therefore, Tuf Shin Zion, which we said is the year 5707, actually only equals the year 707. Tuf is 400, Shin is 300, and Zion is 7. So while it's quite impressive that the book of Esther has the year right, it would have been a little bit more impressive if there were a hint to the millennium of the Nuremberg trials.
But there is.
Or maybe there is. If it occurred in the Hebrew year 5707, then that means that it was the 6th millennium. It was the 6th time the year 707 has appeared in Jewish history. Now, what number does 6 correspond to in Hebrew? Well, it's a Vav. Well, guess what? In the listing of the 10 sons of Haman, there also happens to be one letter which is much bigger, not smaller, much bigger than all the others. Take a look. What is it? Yep, you guessed it. It's a Vav at the very end, which corresponds to the number 6. So we've got 3 small letters, which create the year 707, and then we've got one letter that's bigger than all the others, Vav, number 6, the 6th time 707 has appeared. So I mean, you can look at this and you can think whatever you want into it. Most people would tend to be pretty amazed. It seems to be a pretty incredible coincidence at the very least. Now, remember what I mentioned earlier about appeals for amnesty and how crazy it is that they were accepting appeals for amnesty for Nazis. Well, the trial actually ended in June 1946, and had there never been appeals for amnesty, the Nazis would have actually been hanged in the year 5706, not 5707. And I'd be standing here today saying, look how close Esther came to the exact date. It was so close. But they ended up actually postponing the sentence.
Nah, let's be real. God would have just Mandela affected it away, and all of a sudden it wouldn't be Vaidzata, it would be Haitzata, or Haizatha, or Haizatha. Anyway, the point is, it's Vav because it's a 6. Or wait, no, I'm tired. Okay, so no, it would have to be 1 year different, so it'd be 1 year less. So Taf. Wait, Vav Taf Shin Hey? Wait. Taf Shin Zayin, sorry. So Taf Shin Zayin, so it'd have to be Taf Shin Vav for that to work. So Taf Shin Vav. So instead of Taf Shin Zayin. So instead of Zayin, so where's the Zayin? Sorry, this is way too intricate or not intricate, but I'm taking this way too seriously. Okay, where's the little, let's see. Where is it? Aridata, Parmashta, Arisi, Ariri. Okay, what am I missing? Okay. Parshanta. What's the next one? Dalphon. I feel like Dalphon. Dalfazan. No, that's a Vav, so it looks like it's a Taf. Where's the other little letters? It's so hard to see. Okay, so Taf Shin. Where's the Zayin? Oh, it must be. You just can't see it because it's there. So Vaizata would be Vaivata. Vaivata. So they just, that's what it would be if it turned out because it's got to work out. So God would have just made it work out, which kind of raises a question: is that a paradox? If what God wrote, or what if what is written is what has to happen? If somehow it doesn't end up being that way, does that mean that retroactively it somehow wasn't that to begin with? It's almost like I don't know. I feel like it's a weird logic game that is way above my head. I'm into the social sciences, not so much the hard sciences, and there is a way you could figure this out, but it is too much for my sleep-deprived brain. And by sleep-deprived, I just mean I haven't slept yet. But also, for any of you wondering why I'm wearing it's with a akal rope, by 𝐤𐤒𤅃, but it can also be. So technically, it's like the scarf itself. It's more. The tricky thing is what it's called has a lot to do with how it's wrapped, and I'm trying to find out how to wrap it as a sutra. But it is for my Purim costume because I'm going as Joseph, and yeah. So I mean, it's all obviously I have more to this more to my costume than just this, but this is just the beginning. So this obviously, so this is a bit more from the Arabian Peninsula, so that part's a bit off. But you know what? I need a little bit more of need a little bit more detail to my costume if I want to win the costume contest, and I really don't care, but I want to at least try. And so, if anyone has any ideas of what Joseph would use, so I have a staff. I really don't know what. Oh, right. I have a coat of many colors. I'm going to be wearing tzitzi, which I'm going to have dyed. The fringes, well, just one four of the fringes, one on each corner, will be dyed blue with spirulina. I'm going to tomorrow, but I'm trying to think, what else would Joseph wear? A great prophet and an even greater dreamer. And I might even be doing a little bit of dreaming myself on Purim, but I'll be awake. Dreaming while awake. It's quite a thing. and hopefully I will. Okay, so this is interesting. So apparently there's also this idea that what was it? Oh yeah, so the gematria for blessed be Mordechai and cursed be Haman. They both equal the same thing numerically, and so there's this idea that this deeper leveling to not being able to tell the difference between Mordechai and Haman is because of the fact that the two phrases end up being equal. So if they're equal, you can't tell. I mean, not that you can't tell the difference, but they're equal enough that they're not dissimilar. Anyway, let's finish up with this.
Sentencing until after the Jewish New Year in October. So had there not been these appeals for amnesty, the year would have been wrong. And finally, have a look at this. This is a Newsweek article. It was written by an American reporter covering the trial and hangings. It says at the very end of the article, only Julius Streicher, one of the Nazis, went without dignity. He had to be pushed across the floor, wide-eyed and screaming, Heil Hitler! Mounting the steps, he cried out, and now I go to God. He stared at the witnesses facing the gallows and shouted, Purim Fest, 1946. You make your own mind up. Happy Purim.
So yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. So here we'll start in a moment. Tanis Esther.
Purim's almost here. You probably have your costume all set and your Suda all planned. But don't get too excited yet, because just before we dive into 24 hours of celebration and feasting, we're going to spend the day fasting. Yep, because from sunrise to sunset on the day before Purim, it's Tanit Esther, the fast of Esther. Now, I like fasting as much as the next guy, but this seems like really bad timing. It's like, yay! Misha Nichnas Adar! Purim is coming! It's the happiest day of the year! Not so fast. Let's be somber. No eating, drinking. Okay, Purim's here! Get your costumes on! I mean, the contrast is just so jarring. And besides, fasting doesn't exactly help us get into the Purim spirit. It's not so easy to pack mishloach manot while you're fasting, or to stay focused on Megillah reading when all you can think about is what you're going to eat once shul is over. It's just weird to be fasting when we're getting ready for Purim, of all things. So why do we fast on this day? Is Tanit Esther just a burden we need to get through before all the fun begins? Or is there something more to it? We're going to take a deeper look at this fast. Once we get to the roots of it, we'll see that there is deep meaning to this day that can actually connect us to the joy and celebration of Purim in a whole new way. If you read the Megillah, you'll see that we're actually not the first people who fasted before celebrating Purim. The Megillah records two different fasts that took place before the redemption occurred. It all begins with a decree to wipe out the Jews in the kingdom. The nation responds with collective fasting. In every country that the king's command reached, there was great mourning among the Jewish people. Som uvechi umisped. They were fasting, weeping and wailing. Sakva efer yutzala rabbi. Everybody lay in sackcloth and ashes. To this day, we read these verses in a sad, dirge-like tune. It was a moment of unprecedented devastation in our nation's history. Just a few years earlier, the first temple was destroyed, and the majority of the nation was kicked out of Israel. This was the first national exile since the slavery in Egypt. Now, the Jews found themselves in foreign land, under a ruler who declares a national genocide against them. The situation seemed utterly hopeless. They turned to God with the hopes of somehow being saved. All of the Jews took to the streets fasting and wearing sackcloth and ashes. All except for Esther. She's sitting inside the palace, seemingly oblivious to the death sentence looming over her people's heads. She's decked out in royal garments, being pampered by maidens who attend to her every need. Mordechai shows up to the palace and pleads with Esther to intercede on the Jews' behalf. She hesitates to go into the king, and Mordechai delivers a chilling wake-up call. Al tadami b'nafshech lihimaleit beit hamelach mikol hayhudim. Right now, Esther, you're sitting pretty in the palace while your people are suffering in the streets. Ki im hacharesh tacharishi ba'et hazot, revach v'hatzala ya'amod laYehudim b'makom acher, va'at u'beit avich tovedu. Don't think that this is how it's going to end. The Jews, they'll be all right. One way or another, God will save them. The question is, Esther, will you be part of it? Will you join your people in their time of need? Or are you going to hide behind the palace doors? If you don't show up now, then mark my word, you won't be around to join in their salvation either. The choice is yours. We all know what happened. Esther responded to the call. She decided to take her chances and confront Ahasuerus, and her decision changed the fate of the Jewish people. Rather than being a passive bystander, she became the vehicle for her people's redemption. But how did she do this? What did she do to make this all happen? Her first step was to declare a fast, her own fast. This fast was Esther's moment of transformation. Initially, Mordecai told her that she can't escape the fate of all the Jewish people. She responds by saying, Lech knos et kol haYehudim, go and gather all the Jewish people. I won't remain separate from my people anymore. Esther understands that they're all in this together. Until this moment, the fast was only taking place outside the palace. Now Esther brings it inside her royal chamber. She says, Tsumu alai, fast on my behalf. Gamani v'na'arotai atzum kein. Me and my maidens will do the same. We're laying down our palm fronds and fruit platters and getting down into the trenches with you. Kasher abadati, abadati. If I'm going to be lost, let me be lost. But let it be for the right reasons. Let it be with my people, for my people, not separate from them. Esther's fast was much more than a show of solidarity. In this moment, she chose to take on the burdens of her people. Sumu alai, it's on me now. Your fast is my fast. Your fears are my fears. Esther now faces potential death. Her life is hanging in the balance, and her salvation will be her people's salvation too. The Jewish people kept fasting for 3 more days. From the outside, it looked like nothing had changed. But this second fast, Esther's fast, transformed their mourning and despair into a rallying cry full of hope. It was a collective prayer for Esther's salvation and, by extension, their own. The decree still loomed, but the seeds of redemption had already been planted. Esther's fast is what made her into the heroine that we know her as today. But the question remains, why do we need to fast just because Esther did? There are lots of achievements in Tanakh that we don't reenact today. So the truth is, if Purim were just celebrating a happy ending to a terrible story of threat and persecution, these would be valid questions. It wouldn't make sense to commemorate the fast anymore. But Purim is not just a celebration of what happened after the long journey from tragedy to joy. The Megillah describes it as a time asher nehepach lahem miagon l'simcha ume'ed al yom tov. The situation totally turned upside down. The threat of annihilation was transformed into a holiday of redemption. The date that was set for a national Holocaust became a day of national euphoria. In order to truly tap into the joy of Purim, it's not enough to just celebrate the end of the story. We need to feel the contrast. We need to connect with the pain and the fear that came before the salvation. So, on Tanit Esther, we remember the terror and panic the Jews felt as they encountered their fragile existence on foreign soil. We fast and pray on this day. We remember these events with our own bodies. We enter Megillah reading still engaged in fasting, and we emerge redeemed. We too can taste the ecstasy of being miraculously saved. The sages placed Esther's fast on the 13th of Adar, even though it didn't take place then, to preserve Nahafochu, the topsy-turvy experience of this holiday. In truth, Tanit Esther isn't a contrast to the joy of Purim. It's the perfect way to enter into it. But there's another layer of meaning to this day, a deeper message that the fast carries. Because remember, there were 2 fasts in the Megillah, the fast of Esther and the fast of the people. The one that we observe today is Tanit Esther, not the fast of the Jewish people, because although that first fast was important and it showed the people's total dependence on God, it didn't carry this lesson that we needed to remember. What we need to preserve and remember to this day is Esther's willingness to take a stand and put herself on the line for her people. It's very nice to get all religious during a time of need and say with full conviction, I believe that God will figure this one out. But it's something else entirely to take a risk and make myself God's partner in that moment. Esther showed us that there are times when we must choose our conscience over comfort, times when we're called upon to fill a role that nobody else can. God may hold the power to bring salvation, but we are tasked with being his partners in it. This is what Tanit Esther commemorates, and it's what Purim is. God may hold the power to bring salvation, but we are tasked with being his partners in it. This is what Tanit Esther commemorates, and it's what Purim is really about too. Because even on the next day, when we're out celebrating, look at what we do. We give matanot le'evyonim, tzedakah to people in need. We send mishloach manot. We share gifts to show our love and care for one another. We read the Megillah and eat and drink together in community with friends and loved ones. The celebration recognizes that God really does work in amazing ways, that despite our deepest troubles, the promise of hope is real, and that each and every one of us has a unique role to play in this remarkable story. Have an easy and meaningful fast.
Hi, if you found this video meaningful, pay it forward. Share it with family and friends by clicking below, down there. And for hundreds of other amazing videos, check out aleph-beta.org. Bye!
Hi, folks. This is Rabbi David Foreman. Purim is right around the corner, so let's just fast forward to Purim night. There you are in synagogue. You're listening to the Megillah like you always do, and you're kind of bored. Reading the Purim story year after year sometimes feels just a little bit like being back in third grade again. You learned the story back in Mrs. Schwartz's class. Why do you have to hear it again every single year? But the truth is, the story you learned as a kid shouldn't really be the story you see as an adult. Even if you were a kid watching this, ask yourself, do you really want just the kids' version of the Megillah? Can't you handle more? As it happens, questions pervade the Megillah, obvious questions. Those questions I want to argue to you in this video series are windows. If we crawl through them, we'll be in a position to see the story in startling new ways. We'll be in a position to read the story as adults. Let's get to the questions in the Megillah, the obvious questions. You just have to clear your mind and try to see the Megillah as if you've never seen it before, and suddenly I think these questions will jump out at you. And where I'm getting at here is the idea that your familiarity with the Purim story will sometimes work against you. It can be hard sometimes when you know so well how Esther, Mordechai, the king, and Haman actually did behave. It's hard to imagine that they could have done things differently. But each of the Megillah's central characters surely could have. So what I want to do with you is this. Let's read through the story, but pause at strategic points in the story and think about the actions of these people. Let's place ourselves in the proverbial shoes of any of the major figures in the narrative.
And speaking of strategic pauses, that's where we'll pause here, and we'll get into the actual Parsha. So, all right. Barechu et Adonai Amvorach, Baruch Adonai Amvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim venatan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. All right. Here's where we're picking back up. And that sounds like Havdalah candle going out, but no, it's not. All right. One moment. All right. So we're probably going to speed through this. So let's see. So we are going 5 to 6. So that is 16. Perfect. All right. And וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור ביום החודש הראשון. Actually, wait. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור ביום החודש הראשון באחד לחודש תקים את משכן אוהל מועד ושמת שם את ארון העדות ושחות על הארון את הפרוכת והבאת את השולחן וערכת את ערכו והבאת את המנורת והעלית את נרותיה ונתת את מזבח הזהב לקטורת לפני ארון העדות ושמת את מסך הפתח למשכן ונתת את מזבח העולה לפני פתח משכן אוהל מועד ונתת את הכיור בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח ונתת שמיים ושמת את החצר סביב ונתת את מסך שער החצר ולקחת את שמן המשחה ומשכת את המשכן ואת כל אשר בו וקידשת אותו ואת כל כליו והיה קודש ומשכת את מזבח העולה ואת כל כליו ואת כל כליו וקידשת את המזבח והיה המזבח קודש קודשים ומשכת את הכיור ואת קנו וקידשת אותו והקרבת את הארון ואת פניו אל פתח אוהל מועד ורחצת אותם במים והלבשת את הארון את בגדי הקודש ומשכת אותו וקידשת אותו וכיהני ובניו תקריב והלבשת אותם כותנות ומשכת אותם כאשר משכת את אביהם וכיהנו לי והיית ולהיות להם משחתם לכהונת עולם לדורתם ויעש משה ככל אשר ציווה אדוני אותו כן עשה. Now you might be wondering, why am I singing a Christmas song to, or I don't know, Christmas carol or whatever to the, or rather the other way around, why am I singing, a Parsha or a parak of the Parsha to that? And the reason is, Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe Lamor. And And Adonai said to Moshe, speaking, Beyom HaChodesh HaRishon, on the first day, or rather, okay, Beyom HaChodesh HaRishon Be'echad LaChodesh. So technically, B'yom HaChodesh. So on the first day of the first month, or on the first day in the first month, or in the first day of the, okay, rather in day one of the first month. That's about on day one of the first month. Takim et Mishkan. Basically Taki. So on day one of on the first day of the first month, my prophet, well, it doesn't say that, but my prophet set up to me, but my prophet set up for me. That's the joke. So Takim, you'll establish the Mishkan, the Ohel Moed, the Mishkan of the tent of meeting. Interesting. The dwelling of the tent of meeting. V'samta sham, and there v'samta sham, and there you shall place the the ark of the covenant, or the ark of the witness, and cover the ark with the parochet. So like screen it, or rather screen it, like cover it, or cover, like protect it with a screen. And you shall bring and you shall bring the table, ve'arachta, and you'll, oh yeah, it's like Shulchan Aruch, and you'll arrange. Okay, cool. Graham's here. I don't know if, hey Graham, I don't know if you caught my little shtick with on the first day of the first month.
Yeah, I caught that one. No, sorry to be late. Had a transformer blow. I'm on battery power. We'll see how long it lasts.
Wait a second. Did they say Autobots roll out?
Well, they said they should be rolling out and fixing everything by 11:30 my time. So.
Okay, but did a talking car talk to you or not?
I don't know. I talked to some sort of auto response thing on the phone, so it could have been.
Fair enough. In other words, it's confirmed. Phone, or I mean, what was this?
AI?
Yeah. For all we know, AI could just be Transformers.
It's clear that Transformers were AI. Whether they're here or not is the question. Tag.
Joke's on you. For all you know, the Transformers might actually be flesh and blood, and they just look mechanical. Wouldn't that be a horrifying thought?
Yep, would be.
I mean, there's universes where vehicles are basically, where they have like vehicles which are living creatures, like, and obviously we used to have that where it was like horses, but like where they're like actually like, like genetically engineering stuff to. I'm trying to think of like what universe that's in. It's nothing that I can remember off the top of my head because I only know it offhand, not because I've actually seen it. Oh, right. Okay, so it's 4:15, so I'm going to take my 4:20 dab, and then we'll continue on. But in the meantime, I do remember, I think there was a video that I had pulled up. I just need to find it now. Oh, here.
Ask ourselves, if we were...
Also, how do I don't know if you saw, but if you saw my Purim costume, at least what I'm wearing so far.
No, let me take a look.
Them right now, what would we do? When we arrive at an answer, we'll then continue reading and we'll just compare what we would have done with what that person actually did do. More often than not, I think we'll be surprised by the great chasm between what we expected to happen and what actually did take place. Let's begin with Esther. Esther acts boldly, she acts heroically, but she also acts kind of strangely, at least at face value. Let's fast forward to the moment that Haman has issued his decree. The Jews are in mourning. Everything seems lost. Everyone's going to die. Esther has until now succeeded in maintaining a secret. She's never told the king that she is Jewish. Mordecai now implores her to reveal this. She's got to go to the king. She has to beseech him to save her people. Esther initially refuses. It turns out that the king has sequestered himself for a while now in his private chamber. And that's a really inconvenient turn of events because, according to the law of the realm, anyone who enters the king's chamber uninvited takes his or her life in their own hands. Esther worries that it doesn't seem like a good time to risk such a visit to the king. It's been a month now since he's called to see her, and she fears that she's no longer in his good graces. Esther shares those misgivings with Mordecai, but he insists that she has to go to the king. So Esther gives in. She agrees to risk it all. She tells Mordecai that she and her ladies-in-waiting will undertake a prolonged 3-day fast, and after that she'll face the king, come what may. So the moment of truth arrives. Esther dresses up in royal clothes, and she dares to enter the king's chamber. He sees her, and then, amazingly, he lifts his scepter, indicating permission for her to enter. As she approaches, he tells her that he's going to grant whatever request she has, no matter what it is, up to half the kingdom, and it's hers. What do you need? He asks. Okay, stop right there. You play Esther. It's your move. What would you do? How would you reply to the king? I don't know about you, but if I were Esther, this is actually the moment that I would seize to make my request. Well, you see, king, it's very nice of you to offer half your kingdom, but actually I just require a small, itty-bitty little favor. It seems that genocide has somehow been decreed against my people. Don't know how it happened, some sort of palace mix-up probably, but luckily it's so easy to reverse, king. If you wouldn't mind just signing right here, this little document I prepared, we can just undo that decree right now. I would be ever so grateful, king. Thank you so much. But that is not what Esther says. Instead, she asks the king to meet her and Haman at a banquet that she's going to make later on. Why does she do that? This was the moment. The king had lifted his scepter and offered to give her half a kingdom. She would have done anything just the day before to get a reception like that. Why does she squander the magic of the moment by postponing the reckoning for some later time? Is she ever going to get a better chance? Okay, so much for Esther. What about Haman? He's decided to wipe out the Jews once and for all on a single blood-soaked day. In order to do that, though, he needs the consent of the king. Now, before we look closely at what he says, let's just take a minute to contemplate what we might have said had we been in his shoes. What charge could you level against these Jews to incite the king's wrath and allow you to proceed with your murderous?
I don't think he was being serious when
I can think of a lot of things Haman could
even
say.
have
The
half
Jews,
of
they
them.
poison the wells. They bake the blood of Persian children into their matzah on Passover. You name it. Haman certainly doesn't feel himself constrained by the truth. As it happens, though, Haman says 3 things, and at least 2 of them seem entirely beside the point. Here are his complaints. A, the Jews are scattered throughout the Persian Empire. B, they observe their own laws, making them different from other nations. C, they don't keep the king's laws. Now, why on earth does he bother with the first 2? I mean, if I were Haman, I would have dropped those first 2 points and mentioned only the third, they don't keep the king's laws. I mean, that's the only thing the king's likely to care about. Think about it. He's basically arguing that the Jews are criminals. And, it's logical to argue that the Jews are criminals, because if they don't keep the laws of the realm, then you could certainly argue that they deserve to be done away with. But who cares about the first 2 things? Who cares where the Jews are located geographically? And who cares that they observe a set of laws that distinguish them from other peoples in the kingdom? The same could probably be said for every one of the king's 127 provinces. They all likely observe certain laws and customs that distinguish them from the others. The conquered people of India, in all likelihood, they had different zoning laws than the people of Ethiopia, but is that grounds to do away with one or the other in a frenzied state-sponsored bloodbath? Presumably, though, Haman is not being foolish. He actually has a plan. He knows the king well, and the charges that he is making are most likely those that give him the greatest advantage. Our task is to figure out what he knew that we don't. So that's Esther and that's Haman. Let's turn now to the king, King Ahasuerus. If you read the first 12 verses or so of the Megillah, you're going to find that they are all about the glory and grandeur of King Ahasuerus. We hear that the king was emperor of the world, sovereign over 127 provinces, stretching all the way from India to Ethiopia. We read about his lavish 180-day-long party, the riches, the fine linens, the gold, the delicately fashioned utensils. So had we been reading the royal archives of the Persian court, all that would be understandable, but we're not reading the archives of the Persian court. We're reading the Megillah, a Jewish book. Why do I need to know about all that splendor? Why start a book in the Bible with such a banal, extended digression? And let's talk about the king himself. Many readers of the Megillah perceive Ahasuerus as a naive, foolish guy. This perception arises in part from one of the very first moments in the Megillah, where the king seems to make this really impetuous decision regarding his queen, Vashti. At the end of this 180-day feast, he orders Vashti to be brought before the throngs and the multitudes. And here's the verse. He asked to have Vashti the queen brought before the king to show her beauty off to the nations and the princes, for indeed she was very beautiful. What exactly was the king thinking here? I mean, it seems crazy what he's doing. Putting your wife on display and inviting other men to marvel at her, it's just plain gauche. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing not just for the poor woman at the center of attention, but for all the men in attendance too. It's just not a very royal, refined thing to do. Why then did Ahasuerus do it? So you could say, look, maybe he wasn't a very refined person. Maybe he was drunk. And that is certainly possible, but I'd like to suggest perhaps there was a method to the madness of Ahasuerus. Perhaps if we take and understand things from Ahasuerus' view, we may well find that the king's course of action...
All right, here, let's get back into it. But you have any thoughts real quick?
I was going to say my immediate thought was Esther should have asked for all the Jews as slaves rather than killing them.
Wait, why?
Well, she could have anything, it saves them from genocide. It achieves her purpose.
Yeah, but why the slave part?
Well, because that would be something that the king would understand better. If you free him so Esther could have them as slaves, he could understand that motivation rather than just free him. I'm just saying, I followed the course of least resistance. I figured that'd be a request the king might be willing to give.
Wait, but why?
Well, because he said he'd do anything. A bunch of Jews that he was going to kill anyway. That's a bunch of stuff he was throwing that away. That's a bunch of waste. Surely he'd be willing to give that to her.
I think you might be missing the point. Him being kind of just the dumb idiot, useful idiot. He didn't even really know what was going on. He just gave his signet ring to Haman to use.
Oh no, I understand. All I was sharing was my initial quick take when I hear that. It's like, when the guy asks, what would you do if you were in Esther's position? It's like, well, that occurs to me because that seems a likely course to achieve the goal. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like if he's going to give you anything, why would you? Like what? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me why.
Well, if my goal was to save the Jewish people from genocide, having the Jewish people under my control would protect them instead of having them genocided seems like a solution to that problem. That's all, as I see goal and solution to goal.
Yeah, but that happens just by saving them because she's the queen. So she's going to be the queen of all of them because at this point, unless you're a Jew that's not under the Persian Empire, then she's your queen.
Yeah, all I was doing was saying what my take was, Ariel. That's all.
No, I get that. It's just I I just don't understand why. Like, I mean, just why the slavery thing?
Because basically that's how things worked in the ancient world, and that's the language that they speak, and that would be something, like I said, the king would be, it would achieve the genocide avoidance, and it would be something that the king would be understand and would likely be happy to grant.
While subsequently further marginalizing the Israelites.
And you kick the can down the road. It's not the first time that's happened in a problem.
Yeah, but you only do that if that's the absolute necessity. It's I think poorly advised to do that. Like, imagine if someone offers you a gold bar and you're like, you know what? I'm going to take the candy gold bar instead.
Well, if I end up with the chocolate, with the whole chocolate factory, that's probably the right choice.
Okay, fine. But that's a huge gamble to take. And frankly, one that I would question your judgment if you didn't make that gamble.
Again, now you're in the Julius Caesar category, to the bold goes victory.
So you've got Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you've got the Orange Julius.
Ooh, when I think of Orange Julius, I'm thinking Trump, and that's not a good picture.
Oh, isn't it a drink or something?
Oh, it is. It's a drink from malls. Basically, it's like a orange juice and sort of a frappe kind of thing. Pretty good. They were a big thing back in the 80s, 90s.
Let's see. Okay, so getting back to it. Okay. Oh yeah. And the Shulchan Aruch, and you will prepare the table, and its preparation will be brought. No. And you'll bring the table, and you'll arrange it, and you'll arrange its arrangements, and you'll bring the menorah, v'ha'aleta, and v'ha'aleta, and you shall go up to it, and you shall light it. V'natata et mizbach, and you will place the golden. You'll place the altar of gold for incense smoking, or for incense burning. Lifnei Aron Hayadot, before the altar of the witness, and Visamta. Oh my god, that is not the most comfortable thing. I'm not going to lie. So I'm just not going to wear this part for now. Alright. Place the altar of gold for burning incense before the altar of testimony, and place the screen at the opening of the Mishkan. Vinatata, and you will give it, or place the mizbach, the Holocaust offering, the holy burnt offering, or the offering, like the ascension offering, before the entrance of the Mishkan, the oil, the Mishkan, the dwelling tent of the meeting, Mishkan of the tent of meeting. It says, "Vinatata et kior," and you will place the kior, the laver, bein ohel, between the tent of meeting, and between the hamizbeach, and between the altar. Vinatata sham maim, and you'll place water there. V'samta, and you'll place at 𐤐𤒄𤒅, and you'll place the courtyard, or you'll surrounding the courtyard, or no, and you'll place the courtyard around or surrounding, and place the screen of the tent of the gate of the courtyard. And you'll take the shemen, the oil of anointing, and you will anoint the tabernacle. Interesting, mashach, and then you have mishkan, which even though it's shachan, you have like mashach here, and then mashach with a chet here. But you'll anoint the mishkan and all that is in it, and you'll sanctify it and all its vessels, and it will be holy. And v'mashachta, and you'll anoint the altar, ha'olah, the altar of ascension, or the burnt offering altar, vet kol kelav, and all its vessels, v'kidashta et hamizbeach, and you will anoint, you'll sanctify the altar, and v'hayam hamizbeach kodesh hakodeshim, or kodesh kodeshim, and the altar will be most holy of holies. Umashachta, and you will anoint et hakior, the kior, ve'et kano, and its pedestals, ve'kidashta ota, and it will be holy or sanctified, consecrated, or ve'kidashta ota. Oh, and you shall consecrate it rather. Vehikravta et Aharon, and you will bring Aaron, ve'et banav, and his children, or his sons, el petach, to the entrance, ohel moed, of the tent of meeting, v'rachatzta otam b'mayim, and they'll wash themselves, and you will wash them in water. V'hilbashta, and Aharon, and you will clothe, or you'll dress Aaron, et bigdei hakodesh, in the clothing, in the consecrated clothing, or in the holy garments. Umashachta oto, and you will anoint him. V'kidashta oto, and he will be sanctified. V'chichen li, and he will minister to me, or he will serve as a priest to me. He will be a priest to me. Ve'et banav takriv, and his children, you will bring them near. V'hil bashta otam kuthanot, and his sons you will bring near, and you will clothe them in kutonot, like in tunics, undergarments. Umashachta otam, and you will anoint them, kasher mashachta, as you have anointed et avihem, as you have anointed their father. V'chihanu li, and they will minister unto me, or they'll be priests unto me. V'haita lihiot lahem, and it will be, and v'haita lihiot, and it will be for them, mashachtam lichunat. It will be their oil, mashachtam, their consecrated portion, or their anointing oil portion, lichunat, for the priest, or for the lichunat olam, for internal priesthood, lidoratam, for their generations. Vayas Moshe, and Moshe made, or did, kachol asher tziva Adonai, did as all that he was commanded by Adonai, oto, to him, ken asa, thus he did. Or here it says, thus did he do, which is also correct. Any thoughts?
No, not a whole lot so far. It just sounds like they're setting Aaron and his brood up pretty good. That's all.
Aaron and his brood, the nest of Aaron. Aaron is a mother bird. Imagine that. That would be interesting. Where is the video? Here.
Was not all that irrational after all. When we get around to answering all these questions that we've just now raised, I think we're going to see that the story of the Megillah is actually far more complex than it at first seems. It's not just about a genocidal villain with a bruised ego, or a beautiful queen who succeeds because she chances upon lucky situations, or even a goofy king who doesn't see what's happening right under his nose. As we venture through the story of Purim, we're going to actually use the questions we've asked in this video, these observations about the strangeness of each character's actions, to guide us. Why is everyone acting so strangely? What exactly is behind each of their plans? Join me as we explore these questions, seeking to uncover a richer understanding of the holiday, the Book of Esther, and the meaning of it all. Follow me into this next video. Purim is an astounding holiday. And when I say it's astounding, I mean it's astounding that we made it into a holiday. If you take a look at the Megillah seems to chronicle a victory that was, for lack of a better word, political. Mordechai and Esther managed, through deft political maneuvering, to save Jews who would have been threatened with a national Holocaust. Now, that's a great thing, but you kind of have to ask yourself, what are we supposed to take out of that? Is there anything spiritual? Is there anything meaningful that you and I, 2 millennia later, are supposed to take out of that? It doesn't seem like we're actually learning anything in terms of how to be better human beings, and we normally associate religion with that, with trying to figure out how it is we're supposed to live our lives. Now, there is a kind of conventional answer to this, at least an answer that I often heard growing up, and that is that one of the messages of Purim is that God works behind the scenes, and that's really where the spiritual meaning of Purim lies. Mordechai just happens to overhear the plot of the 2 assassins against the king, and he happens to not be rewarded right away, and his reward is delayed until later. And then one night, the king happens to be unable to fall asleep and asks for the book to be opened, and the book just happens to be open to the right place to read about Mordechai's long-forgotten deeds, and who should knock at the door just at that moment, but it just happens to be Haman asking for permission to hang Mordechai on the gallows. And all of these coincidences kind of conspire together to eventually come to create this great salvation for the Jews, and it's really God working behind the scenes, and maybe that's the spiritual message of Purim. And while I do have some sympathy for that, I come back to this question, what does it mean for us? You see, that's not so much what it means for us as what it means for God. You could argue that there is theological meaning to Purim in the sense that we learn something about how God operates, but that's very philosophical, that's very abstract. Is Purim just about how God runs the world, or is it about how I'm supposed to run my life? What I want to suggest to you in this series of videos is that it's really about how we're supposed to remember. I want to try to show you how that's so. The Megillah is one of those parts of the Tanakh that we kind of know very well. Ever since we've been 4 or 5 or 6 years old, we've been dressing up as Queen Esther and Mordechai, and the story is very, very familiar to us. And it doesn't seem to be all that mysterious. I want to suggest to you today that there are some mysteries just underneath the surface of the text that, if we look at them, will give us a very fascinating insight into kind of what's going on behind the scenes in the story. We're going to play a little game here. We're going to call it If You Were Esther. Okay, so you were Esther and you were going before the king to save the Jews. It's a dangerous kind of mission, and the king doesn't really care much about the Jews. The Jews are not his favorite people in the world. What are you going to use? What's your secret weapon? The answer is, your secret weapon is you. I mean, you are Esther, and the king loves you, right? That's why he married you. You're pretty, you have chen, you have grace. The king just thinks your smile lights up the room. And, you know, you would use that if you want him to save your people. You would ask him as a personal favor, you know, please do it for me. Please save my people. And in doing so, if you're thinking to yourself, gee, you know, how is it that I want the king to view himself? You know, how should the king in his own mind, as I'm talking, how do I want him to think about himself? I think the answer would kind of be that he is the knight in shining armor. He can come and save me. And to that end, you know, Esther would portray herself as the damsel in distress. Here is your chance to do something for me and to just be the winner in my book, to be the man who makes everything better for me. So that's kind of the strategy which I would take if I was Esther going before the king at that banquet where she confronts Haman. That's how she wants to portray things. That's the kind of language she should use that promotes this kind of way of viewing things. So let's actually look at Esther's language with an eye towards this and kind of grade her, as it were, for how well she does this. They're at the table. This is the second banquet. This is when Esther makes this request of the king, and here's what she says. Vatan Esther Amalka Vatomar, Imatzati chen beinach hamelech. If I have found favor in your eyes, king. Okay, that's a good start, right? We'll give her a little check mark for this. Humility, recognizing that the king does love her. Yimal hamelech tov, and it's good before the king. Then tinatin li nafshi b'shelati v'mivakashati. Give me my life as my petition, my people as my request. Oh, this is terrific. This is poetic. It's passionate. It portrays herself as in distress. The king is going to save her. This is his chance. The heights of poetry resonate into her words, and you can see the violins swelling in the background, and you hear the gallops of the horse on his way to save Esther. This is really great. That's verse 3. Let's go on to verse 4. Kinim karnu ani va'ami, she says. For me and my people have been sold. What? It's not going to cut. Hello? What do you mean have been sold? We've been sold? Just get to the point. What is her point? La shmid la rogu la abed. To be destroyed, killed, and
Is that what
utterly
you were
wiped out.
referring
Oh, yeah,
to?
that's good. I just don't.
Did you know about that?
No,
Well, that's
No.
interesting.
no, I was just going with my raw, fresh take. Just what what would I do if I was in Esther's place?
Well, interesting. She seems like she might have done something similar.
Sold is doing here. But anyway, keep on. And then she says something really strange. Listen carefully. This is her moment in the sun. She's going to digress away from the threat, which is the threat is that we are being killed. She's now going to take the king somewhere else and saying, look, theoretically, king, I just want you to know that if we had only been sold as slaves, okay, Nimkanu, there's that selling again for some strange reason. Why is she so interested in this selling business? Sold to be killed, sold to be slaves. If we had been sold as slaves, then hecharashti, then I would have kept silent. Why? Ki ein hatzar shoveh benezek hamelech. A strange phrase. The way many commentators translate it means that the pain that we experience as a result of servitude wouldn't outweigh the gain that would accrue to the king's treasury from the monetary proceeds of our slave labor. Now, if you're scratching your head because that seems kind of complicated, it is complicated. And that's why I think it's such a great question, why Esther is getting involved in this. I mean, why is she making these complicated arguments? She succeeds in painting this knight in shining armor picture in the beginning, and now she's getting off into this very complicated profit loss analysis. The actuality is that we're being killed. So you don't make any profit, king. Your treasury doesn't make any profit out of our being killed. And if we would annul the decree, it's not like you would lose any profits by annulling that decree. And plus, it's really, really bad for us that we're getting killed. So it's really bad for us, and you don't get anything out of it. And that's why I'm stepping forward. On the other hand, theoretically, had we only been sold as slaves, then you would have gotten something out of it. The king's treasury would have been the beneficiaries of our slave labor. You would have had a little bit of profit. I wouldn't want to deny you that profit. I mean, why is she talking about this? And again, if you had a hard time following this, the point is that it is hard to follow. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I was the king, I was like, oh man, what's going on over here? I'm like confused. I'm not an accountant. Like, go bring in my secretary of the treasury or something and escort this woman away. Why is she doing this? I would say she gets an F for this, maybe a D minus. It completely destroys the romance of the situation, which she
Interesting. I mean, it's stuff like that kind of makes me think that maybe you're more in tune with this than you realize.
Could be. I was going to say part of it here isn't she in effect showing herself to be a Jewish woman? Because come on, the king's used to having his harem. Who else but a Jewish woman is going to pull out a cost-benefit analysis when it comes to a situation like this? She's basically exposing herself as a Jewish woman at this point. Tag.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of, here, let me see if I can find it. Let's see, it was, let's see, Oh wait, here.
If it was a Babylonian woman, she'd be talking about what sort of silk she wanted, all that one. No. Prophet law's got to be Jewish woman. Tag.
Here.
בשנת 1959 רות הנדלר, בת לינה.
come on in.
Oh, sweetie, מה שחשוב זה לא שברבי תראה כמוך, זה שאת תיראי כמו ברבי.
מה לא בסדר באיך שאני נראית?
Oh, honey, את ילדה מושלמת בעינינו.
אבל בעין אנטישמית את טרף קל.
אינני מבינה.
סוויטי, את נראית יותר יהודייה מקניידל.
יש תחושה שרק מלהסתכל עלייך אני צובר ריבית.
את נראית כאילו ממש עכשיו חזרת מלבגוד בישו.
גלובוס ביד ואת קריקטורה אנטישמית.
אוקיי, אז אני נראית יהודייה, מה הבעיה עם זה?
לא, אין בעיה, אין שום בעיה. את אוהבת מקלחות?
בוודאי.
עם 100 איש ובלי מים?
תראי פחזנית אלרגנית שלי. אם עם שלנו למד משהו, זה שעדיף לא לראות כמו עם שלנו. אם עם שלנו למד משהו...
אין בעיה, אין שום בעיה. את אוהבת מקלחות?
בוודאי.
עם 100 איש ובלי מים?
תראי פחזנית אלרגנית שלי. אם עם שלנו למד משהו, זה שעדיף לא לראות כמו עם שלנו.
Wait, here. This is what I'm talking about.
ומה זה פה?
וואו! סורפרייז! וואו!
Wait, hold on.
או
פטרול! היה מכאן.
אולי בבית.
Merry Christmas, בן קייק, sir. וואו. אז היא יכולה להיות גם בן קייק כמו שאני יכולה להיות?
בטח שהיא יכולה להיות בן קייק.
Of course you can be a banker. Here, I even have a calculator in my hand for you. Here.
Ow! Seriously? What? בוא פשוט לכתוב לך ג'ו על המצח.
Dude, what? Let's just write you on your forehead. No calculator. She has a bikini and blank eyes. That's it.
ותראי להם שהם בדיוק כמוהן בזמן שאני מסתכלת מהחלון בדאגה. Go.
Damn it.
Well, also, it's funny that the way that like the way you translate into Hebrew, damn it, is Leazazel. His idea is that like you're saying to Leazazel, like go to Azazel, and it's like not literally to hell, but kind of like go to the scapegoat. Or anyway, but yeah, just the idea of oh, why don't you just pull out some spreadsheets? Why don't you reveal who you are? It's like, okay, I know you told me you were Jewish, but now you're showing me you're Jewish.
Exactly.
Putting your money where your mouth is in this case, rather than money where your mouth is. Wait, no. People do say put your money where your mouth is. Never mind. I thought I was being clever and reversing it. Anyway, to get back on track. Also, let me just post a link to join in the comments in case anyone else wants to join. I'm just going to be speeding through this because I need to get up in. I have a relatively good amount of time. I just need to finish up soon. And we are going to properly finish the last part of Exodus. So we are going to make an Exodus from Exodus. But anyway, so we're going 17 and 27 now. Vayechi. Oh, yeah, we're going with another, and it was all effort. Vayehi b'chodesh harishon b'shana hashenit mechar lachodesh hukam hamishkan vayakem Moshe hamishkan vayitan et adanav vayasem et karashav vayiten et berichav vayakem et amudav vayifros et haoel al hamishkan vayosem et michse האוהל עליו מלמעלה. כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה, ויקח וייתן את העדות אל אהרון, וישם את הבדים על אהרון, וייתן את הכפורת על אהרון מלמעלה. ויבא אהרון אל המשכן, וישם את פרוכת המסך, ויסך על אהרון העדות, כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. ויתן את השולחן באוהל מועד על ירך המשכן צפונה מחוץ לפרוכת, ויערוך עליו ערך לחם לפני אדוני, כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. וישם את המנורה באוהל מועד נוכח השולחן על ירך המשכן הנקבה, ויעל הנרות לפני אדוני, כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. וישם את מזבח הזהב באוהל מועד לפני הפרוכת, ויקטר עליו קטורת צמים, כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. Let's see, 27. So that should be a samech. So it's interesting. Sometimes it's clear where it ends. Sometimes it is not at all. So yeah. So thanks, Nathan. I always appreciate that people can appreciate my voice. I mean, at the end of the day, I just try to make it as not bad as I can, which is always a work in progress. But I don't know. I've always liked singing, and it's something that, you know, I mean, let's just say it can run in my family, but it also doesn't in other parts. Like, my dad cannot hold a tune for the life of him, and I love him to bits, but he cannot sing. Not to save his life, he cannot sing. Well, he can, but it's not good. And I say that only with love. All right, let's see. Oh, wait. How did it skip up there? Okay, so 14 started 17, I believe it was. Yeah. Vayhi b'chodesh harishon. And so it was in the first month. B'shana hashanit, in the second year. Wait, what? Huh? Oh, okay. The first month of the second year, be'echad lachodesh, in the first lachodesh, the first of the months, who come hamishkan, of the first of the months of the establishment of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. So it says on the first of the month that the Mishkan was set. Right, and it was on the first of the second year, on the first. On the first of the month Oh wait, first of the month of the second year. On the first of the month, so it's just repeating it. That's why it's so confusing. Vayekem Moshe, and Moses established, or he erected. That's another word. Interestingly, the root of this is kum, to rise, stand up. So it's interesting. Oh, I just saw heart. I could meditate for hours listening to your brother. Thanks. I could meditate for hours reading this stuff, except I would probably either pass out or my throat would start hurting. So I unfortunately cannot do that. But if, at some point I might do, you know what? By the time I finish the Torah, hopefully, actually, I don't know whether this is hopefully or not, but for the sake of convenience, I hope that at least this part of AI is progressed enough that I could be like, hey, look through my channel. Can you compile a video of all the different points where I was singing the Torah? And then it would do that. It's like, that would be nice. And then anything that I'm missing, I could just figure it out on my own. Then again, I guess on some level I could just listen to someone else reading Torah. But the only downside to that is it gets kind of repetitive because it's based on a trope. Which then again, maybe, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if my own tunes are repetitive. So that's something I want to work on like just being more random in general, not just repeating the same things. I get very stuck in loops. All right, so let's see. We are here. And Moses erected the Mishkan, Vayten et Adanav, and he placed the sockets, Vayasam et Karashim, and he placed the boards, Vayten et Brichav, and he placed the the beams, the bars, Vaykem et Amudav, and he erected the columns. Vayfros et Ohel, and he dispersed the Ohel, the tents, al Mishkan, upon the Mishkan, so like over the Mishkan, Vayasem, and he placed et HaMichzeh, the covering of the Ohel, alav milmala, the covering of the Ohel, sorry. Sure, it's Adonai and Moshe. I feel like I'm forgetting something. And he placed the cover of the tent, Ohel. What the heck? Of the tent upon it from above. So the Lord commanded Moses. I don't know. I feel like something totally. It's weird. I feel like something just disappeared from right in front of me. Like I was reading something before and it's gone now. But obviously I know it's just my sleep-addled brain, or whatever I'm saying. I kasher siva. As siva, as Adonai siva, as Adonai commanded at Moshe of Moses. What do you commanded of him? Is there something I'm forgetting? Oh, actually, one quick thing. Wait, what's this for? Oh, never mind. Sorry. I'm getting things confused. It's what happens when you're tired. I was about to talk about something that's relevant to one of my extracurricular well, it's actually, it's part of school, but it's still kind of extracurricular. And I was like about to start talking about that, and I forget. Oh wait, that's not what this is. Honestly, it's kind of fun to be able to just, relax like that, and not have to worry. At the end of the day, I don't know. It's also nice being able to look back on this and kind of experience it from another point of view, because I don't even remember what I was talking about before. But these little like quirk or like little screw ups or like blooper moments or whatever. I don't know. It's just, I think it gives things a bit of a variety. I don't try to do it on purpose, but like I'm conscious of the fact that it could easily become one of those. And I don't know. Sorry, I'm like just talking to myself. Okay. All right, where were we? So, Vefros et Hell. Wait, no, I think we read this. Et love Mala. Place it. All right. Kasher Tiva Adonai and Moshe, just as God commanded of Moses. Vaikach Vaiten. And he took and he gave and Hayadut the testimony El Haaron to the ark, Vaisam a place at Habadim, place the Badim Al Haaron. They're trying to topple it. And they placed the wait, what's this? One second. What the heck? Well, shit.
I don't know what I can do to help here.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Sorry, I'm just. All right. Vekach Vaiten. All right, where are we? And Habadim. And he placed the Badim, the poles, upon the ark Vaiten at Hakapara, and he placed, and he gave or placed the Kaporet, the mercy seat, upon the altar from above, or the Aron. Sorry. Vayave el Haaron el Hamishkan, and he brought the ark to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle. Vaisam et Paracha, and he placed the placed the Paracha. He set the Paracha, the veil, Hamasach, the covered veil, Vaisach al Haaron, and it screened over the Aron HaKodesh, the tabernacle, or not tabernacle, but the, what's it called? Let's see. Vayve et Aharon el Hamishkan Vayasam. Let's see. And he brought the ark to the tabernacle, and he placed it Prochet Hamasach, placed the veil, the screen veil, Vaisach, and it screened upon the Aron, upon the ark of testimony at Kasher, as Tiva commanded Adonai, as Adonai commanded Moses. Vaiten at Hashulchan Ba'ohel, and he placed the table in the tent of meeting, upon the yerach, upon the thigh or side, upon the side or loin of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. Tzafona, wait, one second. Wait, so are we? V'yerach Hamishkan Tzafona, and the thigh of the Mishkan, or on the side of the Mishkan, this is north. Tzafona. Oh, so this is saying northward, Mechutz la Parachet, from out from the veil. One second. All right, let's see where we're at. the Vaya Aruch, and he like set up upon him an arrangement lechem lifnei of bread before Adonai kasher as tiva Adonai as Adonai commanded Moshe. Vaisem et menorah, and he placed the menorah, but ohel moed, he placed the menorah in the altar of ohel moed nochach. Maybe spiritual and stuff, religious. I don't know. Yeah, it's well. All right. Oh yeah, let's see. All right, where are we? Some menorah, be'ohel moed nochach hashulchan, let's see. Wait, sorry. Vaisem et menorah be'ohel moed nochach hashulchan al yerech hamishkan neva. Right. And he placed or he put the menorah, the candelabra, in the tent of meeting, nochach, opposite hashulchan al yerech, the table upon the side of the Mishkan, which is negva, facing south, or literally right. V'ya'al hanerot lifnei, and he went up hanerot lifnei, he went up to the candles lifnei Adonai, before Adonai, kasher tiva, as he kasher tiva Adonai, as Adonai had commanded at Abraham. Let's see. All right. So, let's see. Moshe. V'ya'al hanerot lifnei Adonai kasher tiva Adonai Moshe. And he went up, read that. But yes, and he placed the mizbach, the sacrifice, the altar of gold in the temple, bohel, in the tent of meeting, lifnei ha-prachad, before the veil. Vayakter alav, and he burned upon it ketorah, incense, samim, spice incense or drug incense, asher siva, as commanded by Adonai et Moshe, as Adonai commanded Moshe. All right, so we're in for the long stretch now. We have 10 more verses from here. Any thoughts?
No, not a whole lot in here. I was going to say the only other thing I was going to share was Robert Thorne. I was watching a presentation with him from Miguel the other day, and he was basically saying that every time that they mention incense in the Bible, they're talking about hashish.
Not strictly, but there is a word that does mean hashish, and it's ashisha.
I'm just saying that's his interpretation, and he's saying that the Persian magi were the big drug dealers. Tag.
Who is this?
Robert Thorne.
Yeah, but who is he?
He was a guy who gave a presentation for Miguel this week.
Oh, right. Sorry, I'm kind of having short-term memory loss because of the lack of sleep.
Yeah, he's an author. He's done all sorts of stuff. I guess friends with Chris Bennett and all. So tag.
Oh, nice. Let's see. Where is the? Where was it? See, I don't remember where it was. Let's see.
It's the same letter, spells Haman. The sages say, where do you find Haman alluded to in the Torah itself? From Hamina Etz, from the tree when the Nachash spoke to Eve and enticed her to eat from the tree of knowledge. And here is the key to solving the whole puzzle of this whole smell thing. What is so important to that? Now you got me on a tangent. But the Kabbalists say on that Ashan, what does Ashan mean? It's Olam Shana Nefesh. That the universe, Olam, and time, Shana, and soul all were united in one. So again, to add to that, the smoke of Har Sinai connecting the heavens to the earth. Yeah, totally. So what does this mean for us with Mashiach coming and having this powerful sense of smell? And I said COVID, I joked, but also it's interesting that COVID manifested itself as people not being able to smell. And there's something deep, a deeper connection here, because the sages also tell us that the generation of Mashiach, it's a very famous line, many of you have heard it, in Masechet Sotah, it describes what the world will be like when Mashiach comes. It describes that generation. And one of the interesting descriptions that it uses is Pnei Hador Pnei HaKelev. The generation will be like dogs. So we know, we can see morally how that reflects itself today with what's going on in the world and the internet and the TikTok and the Instagram and I'm not going to get into all the things that happen in the world and all the immorality that's being pushed through the media and all that stuff. But we can definitely see the dog-like nature of people really debasing themselves and behaving in a very dog-like way, right? So for the sages, a dog was always a symbol of something that's very hypersexual, to put it more gently, uncontrolled. And exactly. But, and that's what I was getting to. On the one hand, the sages use that negatively, saying Pnei Hador ke Pnei HaKelev. The generation is like a generation of dogs. But the main feature of a dog is that it has an incredible sense of smell, right? Perhaps the best. A dog can smell things. A dog can smell its owner coming home before he's still a mile away, and they can already sense somehow these incredible things. We all know. So the airport dogs can smell from hundreds of meters away something that's locked up in a suitcase in a bag, and they can already smell it. So they've trained dogs to smell cancer. A dog can smell a tumor. They have dogs today that can sense blood sugar. A diabetic kid, so to measure the blood sugar, instead of always pricking and getting a blood thing, the dog can smell the kid's blood sugar. Yeah, from the breath. What's that? No. It's so the dog's nose is so sensitive that the dog can smell on the breath of the child the sugar levels. Can you believe that? You can look this up. It's unbelievable. They've trained dogs to do all kinds of things, to detect tuberculosis and like everything, tumors and glucose, and unbelievable. So the dog sense of smell is something amazing. And I think that connects to our generation, because something that we take for granted is that we are the first generation in history, like in the last 100 years, where life smells pleasant. I think we forget that in past times, things stunk all the time because there was animals everywhere. There was no sewer systems, right? There were no toilets, no plumbing. People, even my parents, when they were growing up, they didn't have plumbing. They went in Uzbekistan, they went to the bathroom outside, right? And to go shower, they had to go to the public bathhouse, right? That's how my parents grew up. And in most of the world, that's how it was until recently. No sewers, no plumbing. There was waste was thrown on the street. There was animal manure all over the place. Things didn't smell nice. People didn't have all these perfumes that we have today and fragrances, and all. That was really expensive. That was for Achashverosh and his harem to have all these spices and to anoint. And that's why the women were spent a year bathing. Why did they need a year to bathe in fragrant spices and aromas before meeting the king? That's how badly it stunk that they needed a year to get rid of it all. So we tend to forget that in ancient times, things were pretty stinky outside, right? Like, we are the first generation where things smell nice, and we are very sensitive to negative smells. Okay? Back then, people wouldn't have even batted an eye to this because smell was just bad all the time, and it wasn't even, you didn't even notice it. But today, we are a generation that's extremely sensitive with smell, all of us. Right? So this is very much in line with the idea of the generation of Mashiach smelling and judging. And we are all like that. We judge through our sense of smell today. We have a very sensitive scent that never in history existed before. So that theme, going back to Purim, that's the theme that you see that throughout this whole idea of aromas. And when you read the Megillah, Bezrat Hashem very soon, you will go through it and you'll notice throughout all these allusions to smell. So to go back to Rava and put it all together. So Rava says that a person chayav lebesume. And what did he mean? Did he mean that you have to get intoxicated? So hopefully now we understand that bosem, that's not what he meant, because the Torah is called a bosem. The Torah is what you should be intoxicated with. And through Torah, you can elevate yourself, like the Kohen Gadol in the Beit HaMikdash, you can elevate yourself up to the heavens and to enter Pardes. And that idea of smell being so timeless and so infinite, connecting you across time and place, and the power of smell. That's what Rava was really saying, the connection. And we even receive, this is another thing, I said I would reference this. I did research in epigenetics when I was in university. So scientists discovered something amazing. They trained a rat they exposed it to the smell of cherries. And every time they exposed the rat to cherries, they zapped the rat with some electricity. So what do you think happened? The rat became scared of the cherry smell. Every time it smells cherries, it like panics and runs away because it fears that it's going to get zapped. Then they had the rat mate, and they took the babies, never exposed to any cherry, nothing. And they gave the baby rats, they removed from the mother. They didn't know the mother, and they exposed the baby rats to cherry smell. Guess what happens? They start running away, they start panicking. So scientists were blown away. So how's that possible? They didn't know the mother didn't teach it to them. How did that happen? So that was one of the amazing experiments in epigenetics, that our genetics is not just what we think, just hard genes in our code. We actually pick up information, and that affects how our genes are expressed. And there's more information above the genome. It's called the epigenome that also gets inherited. So now we have evidence that we also inherit memories, especially memories of smell, like they did with that cherry blossom, right? So you're born with certain memories, an amazing thing. That's something to keep in mind. It's in our DNA, going all the way back to what sense do we have in our DNA, going all the way back to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And you'll notice that the Garden of Eden, anybody know what the Garden of Eden smelled like? So etrog, some say, was the tree, yes. But what did the whole garden smell like? A pardes of tapuchim, right? A chakal tapuchim. So we read that, Rashi says that when Yaakov came to take the blessing from Yitzchak says that he smelled him, Vayomer reach bni, the smell of my son, kereach sadeh, asher bercho Hashem. When he walked in, remember, it didn't smell so nice back then. So suddenly he smells the garden of a blessed garden. And Rashi says, what does Rashi say here? Rashi says what we said earlier. Like it would have stunk like goats. Like Yaakov had goat skins on, right? So Rashi is saying it would have stunk. Like, what does this mean that it smelled like a garden? That when Yaakov walked in, the smell of the Garden of Eden walked in with him. and Yitzhak was blown away by that.
More like a
And Rashi
field of
continues and
cannabis.
says, what is this reach sadeh asher bercho Hashem? What is a field that God blessed? It was like, what is the scent of the Garden of Eden? Zeu sadeh tapuchim, right? It's the smell of an apple orchard. And this idea of a chakal tapuchin, of an apple orchard, is found throughout mystical literature. You have it, I see you guys have Chabad Sidurs here. So in the Chabad Sidur, like during Seudah Shlishit, also you read, it says there's chakal tapuchin. You'll notice that phrase that we want to, especially during Seudah Shlishit on Shabbat, it says to rise to that level, to enter the apple orchard, the chakal tapuchin, to again elevate our bodies heavenward and have that kind of spiritual out-of-body experience, and to experience the Shekhinah. So that's the whole idea of chakal tapuchin, of an apple orchard. So that's what Rava was saying. Rava, spiritual out-of-body experience, and to experience the Shekhinah. So that's the whole idea of chakal tapuchin, of an apple orchard. So that's what Rava was saying. So that's the whole idea of chakal tapuchin, of an apple orchard. So that's what Rava was, the Shekhinah. So that's the whole idea of chakal tapuchin, of an apple orchard. So to experience the Shekhinah. So that's the whole idea of chakal tapuchin, of an apple orchard. So that's what Rava was saying. Rava was saying we want to get intoxicated by Torah so that we can enter the apple orchard. We want to go up to the heavens. We want to enter Pardes. That's what they were really doing. They were going up to Pardes, like many sages at the time did. The Zohar has.
And on that note, we'll continue. Vayasem en masach hapetach lamishkan vet mizbach haolah sham petach mishkan Ohel Moed Vaya'al alav et ha'olah v'et ha'mincha kasher tziva Adonai et Moshe Vayasem et hakiyud ben ohel moed ben hamizbeach vayiten shama mayim ti Mayim lera zachta. Verachatzu mimenu Moshe ve'Aaron. Where is this? Sorry. Vaisimet. Let's see where's I did not. Vaisimet. Yeah, just out of caution. Okay, so I read this. So. Vaisem et hakiyud ben ohel moed uvein hamizbeach vayiten shama mayim lecharatza verachatzu mimenu Moshe ve'Aaron et yedehem Raglei. So, where the no. I mean, well, yeah, I knew where till next one for the June cell. Anyway, I Vaisam at. Oh, I saw you read that. Verachatsu. Wait. Sorry. Oh, no. We're still. Oof. Sorry, I'm really tired. If you can't tell. Alright, so וישמת הכיור בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח ויתן שמה מים לרחצה ורחצו ממנו. בין אוהל מועד הוא
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's like I was like I'm awake and then okay, yeah. All right. וישם את הכיור בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח ויתן שמה מים לרחצה ורחצו ממנה משה ואהרון ובניו את ידיהם ואת רגליהם בבואם אל אוהל מועד ובקרבתם אל המזבח ירחצו כאשר ציווה אדוני. ברוך אל האוהל מועד ובקרתם אל המזבח ירחצו כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה ויקם את החצר סביב למשכן ולמזבח ויתן את מסך שער החצר ויאכל משה את המלאכה ויכס הענן את אוהל מועד וכבוד אדוני מלא את המשכן ולא יכול משה לבוא אל אוהל מועד כי שכן עליו הענן וכבוד אדוני מלא את המשכן ובהלה see ובענן מעל המשכן יישאו בני ישראל בכל מסעיהם ואם לא יעלה הענן ולא יישאו עד יום העלתו כי ענן אדוני על המשכן היום תהיה לילה לעיני. I've been thinking about that all night. Let's see. So we're yeah, I do not remember where okay, let's see. ובהעלות הענן מעל המשכן יסעו בני ישראל שער בכל מסעיהם. ואם לא יעלה הענן ולא ייסעו עד יום העלותו. כי הענן אדוני. White popcorn? I don't know. Give me one moment. So, let's see. ואם לא יעלה החנן ולא יסעו. Anyway, I'm going to be right back. Let's see, where is the here?
Been building up so nicely over here. Why is she doing this? This is mystery number one. Why is Esther talking like an accountant? We are going to look here at Esther's second request to the king. It turns out that her first request actually fails. Often when we read the Megillah, we're not actually aware of this because it looks like Esther succeeds, the king listens to her, and the king kills Haman. But if you look closely, the only thing that happens is the king kills Haman, but the law that Haman had promulgated still remains on the book. So the Jews are just as threatened as they were before, even after Haman dies. In a certain way, Esther is in an even worse position now than she was before, because before she sort of has one thing going for her. What she has going for her is sort of the suspicion that the king might have of this kind of love triangle between her and Haman and the king. Remember, Esther has sort of cleverly invited the king together with Haman to banquet after banquet. And in the middle of those banquets, remember how the king couldn't sleep at night? You sort of wonder why it was he couldn't sleep. Perhaps it was, he's wondering, why does the queen keep on inviting Haman to these banquets? And the queen is sort of cultivating this view of Haman as a possible threat, a cultivation which comes to the fore when she fingers Haman and says, it's you were the one who would destroy our people. And the king, who had already been sort of predisposed perhaps towards seeing Haman as a possible threat, as someone who wants his queen, now sees that he's someone who does want his queen, wants his queen dead, but same idea. This man is a threat to my queen, and he kills Haman. But now Esther doesn't have the love triangle anymore. She doesn't have that sort of ace in the hole to play off of Haman. Haman is dead, and the only thing that she has is she has her people, and the people are still threatened, and the king, no friend of the people, and now Esther has to go before the king, and what is she going to do? She just has to beg and plead for the king to do what he didn't do before, which is to erase the decree on the books to destroy Esther's people. And here she goes to the king one last time. Now, if you listen carefully, you will hear that once again, the author of the Megillah is placing within Esther's words an echo of words that we have from Chumash. See if we can find it. So here's what Esther says to the king. It says, if I found favor in your eyes, then please, please repeal Haman's decree. Please repeal Haman's decree. And now she's going to get to the part where she seems to be quoting from words that appeared before. Ki echachau chavra'iti, how can I possibly bear to see bara'a asher yimsa adami, the evil that would befall my people? Now, if you look at those words carefully, echachau chavra'iti bara'a asher yimsa adami, you play them over in your mind, you may recognize those words from somewhere in Breshit. Where do we have those words before? Those exact same words, with the exception of one syllable. Ami gets replaced with Avi, my father. Who said that? Hey everybody, Rabbi David Foreman here. I want to talk to you about this holiday that we call Purim. Why do we call it Purim? Well, we all know why we call it Purim. For the lots that Haman cast in ancient Persia, seeking to destroy us all. He cast lots to find the day on which he would destroy the Jews. The Aramaic term for lots is Purim, Pur singular, Purim plural, and hence we call the day Purim after Haman's lots. But I have a question for you. Does that make any sense? Why would you name the day after the device that your enemy used to try to kill you? It's roughly equivalent to imagining that in 1948, when the Jews miraculously beat back Arab armies from multiple countries, that instead of calling the day Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day, why don't we call it Tokarev Day? The Arabs used Russian-made Tokarev rifles. Now, thank God they were beaten back. They didn't destroy us. But let's name it Tokarev Day after the stuff they used to try to kill us. No one would think this is a very good idea. So why do we name Purim lots? The question is even larger than this, because lots in a larger sense is symbolic, isn't it? When Haman cast lots to destroy us, he left the decision of which day it would be that the Jews would be killed in this mass genocide up to the winds of fate, up to chance. When the Megillah describes this, it says, V'hipil pur hu hagoral, he cast lots, lehumam ula abdam. La'abdam, it means to destroy them, but lehumam, it means more than to destroy them. It means to terrify them. The lots were instruments of psychological warfare. They were making a statement. Do you think there's a plan? You think there's a creator who runs things with a sense of order? I say it's all up to chance. I determine the fate of you all with a roll of the dice. It was terrifying. Why would we name the day after that terror? Why would we name the day after a theological vision that we reject? We don't think it's all up to chance. It is true that God's name does not appear in the Megillah, that God works behind the scenes, but we don't believe that God was absent. So why would we name the holiday after a vision of chance that we don't even believe in? Why call it Purim? Now the truth is, the Megillah itself, in chapter 9, towards the very end, actually tries to explain to us why the holiday is called Purim, why it's called lots. If we really want to understand why it's called Purim, we should look at those verses, and yet those verses themselves are hard to understand. Let's take a look at them now for a minute. They begin in chapter 9, verse 24. Ki Haman ben Amdata Agagi, Haman the Agagite, Sorer Kol HaYudim, enemy of all the Jews, Chashav ala Yudim la'abdam, plotted concerning the Jews to destroy them, V'hipil pur hu'agoral humam ula'abdam, and cast lots in order to terrify them and to destroy them.
All right. So we're at, I see. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We'll just go by here. העלות הענן מעל המשכן יישאו בני ישראל בכל מסעיהם, ואם לא יעלה הענן ולא יישאו עד יום העלותו, כי ענן אדוני על המשכן יומם, ואש תהיה לילה בו לעיני כל בית ישראל וכל מעשיהם. So, see where, וישם את מסך and he placed the screen ha'petach lemishkan, a door to the Mishkan, vet hamizbach ha'olah, and the altar of burnt offering, sham petach, or sam, he placed petach Mishkan ohel moed, at the entrance of the Mishkan of the tabernacle, the gate of the temple of the meeting. All ha'alav, and he went up upon it. And he brought up upon it the olah, the burnt offering, the et hamincha, and the gift kasher, as tziva Adonai at Moshe, as Adonai commanded to Moshe. Is it really a gift if you command someone to give it to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're giving it to me. The question is willingly or unwillingly.
I guess it's true. Vayasem et hakior, and he placed the kior. Let's see, and he placed the kior between the tent of the meeting and between the altar, and he gave there. He placed in there water for washing. V'rachatzu mimenu, and they washed from it. And Moses and Aaron and his sons washed themselves from it, and washed themselves in their hands from it, or no, wash themselves. Moses and Aaron washed themselves, and his sons, and their hands and their feet. The et el ohel, it looks like it's getting really bad. Let's see. Luckily, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, anyway. Sorry. Verachatsu. The aval. Here, I'll be there just like 2 minutes late. Let's see. Verachtu mimenu, and they wash themselves from it. Wait, I read that. Bevoam el Moshe, and they're going to the tent of the meeting. Vekarav tam karav, in their closeness, or in their approaching to the altar. Yerchatzu, they would wash kasher tziva, as commanded by God, Adonai, to Moshe. Vayikam et hechatzer, and he erected a courtyard surrounding Mishkan, the Mishkan. Ulamizbeach, and for an altar. Vayitan, he gave at Hamasach, gave a screen. Sharachet hechater, the gate, or was it the screen at the gate of the courtyard. Vayichas Hanan, and the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of, or the honor of God,
Tent of God, glory of God.
Yeah, I was just sorry, I don't know why I was like, I thought it was, I don't know, explain it. I'll tell you later. Mailing visa, I just don't even remember. Where are we at?
Tent of God, glory of God.
Oh yeah. the glory of God filled the tabernacle. And Moses was not able to go to the tent of meeting because Shachan Alav, it was being dwelled within, and the Hanan and the smoke and the glory or honor, whatever, of Adonai, of God, Malay at Hamishkan, filled the Mishkan, Ube Healot, and but when Hanan Me'al Hamishkan went up, when the cloud went up from the Mishkan, Yisa'u B'nai Israel, yes, pulled out. And the children of Israel pulled out in all their actions, all their deeds. I don't know. Ve'im lo, and if not, Ye'ale, he would go up, Hanan in a cloud, Ve'lo, Yisa'u, and he would not, Lo Yisa'u, and he would not worry. What were you saying?
Didn't say anything. Keep going.
Oh, sorry. Kianan Adonai. What is this? Kianan Adonai, because the cloud is Adonai upon Al Hamishkan, upon the tabernacle. Yomam ve'esh. Let's see, daily fire. Let's see, Yomam ve'esh. He'll be a daily fire. Valayla bo. But night is within his soul. I think it's, I forget exactly where it was going with that. Kol Beit Israel, all the house of Israel, B'chol Maseham, in all their journeys. Interesting. Any thoughts before we, so that's also for context, that's the end of Exodus. So what is it we're supposed to say? Let's see. Chazak. Right. Yeah. So, let's see. Just want to see if I'm missing anything. Right here. Yeah. So, on that note, I was still like, yeah. On that note, chazak, v'nit chazak. And so we shall. Yeah. Any thoughts before we close out, though?
No, not a whole lot. Just it's again the tent of meeting was clearly a hot box that they got stoned in.
Yeah,
But,
the only downside though is that with those they aren't traditionally at least
it sounds like they're ending. It sounds like they're ending with Moses too stoned to even go back into the tent of meeting.
Funny. Yeah, I mean, you're not. Well, the question is he too stoned, or is it just that there's too much smoke there that he can't even go in because he would? I mean, I guess it's not necessarily even, contradictory, but anyway. So wow, so it's wild. So we're now on Leviticus. That is wild. I think is Leviticus what's next? Let's see, Tanakh, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. Yep, that's right.
Leviticus. Now that we've given you the 10 Commandments, here's a different 10.
Yeah, it's like here's yeah, and here's the amended print. Anyway, on that note, because I'm like about to pass out and I need to get some sleep, so I will see you guys later. And I am going hopefully to have a great Purim, which is on Saturday night, and I will let you all know how it goes. And on that note, I will see you all next time.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read them. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now.
I just remembered, I forgot something. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And on that note, now we can end off.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay? Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now, oh yeah, Am Yisrael, have no fear, Mashiach will be this year. Am Yisrael, have no fear, Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now, we don't want